My name is Ted Suss. I live out by Nerstrand State Park, and which of course is in the 1st Congressional District. We invited the congressman to attend. We called him, we wrote him, we emailed him, and unfortunately he's not able to be here. I make no observation or comment on that other than to say that the congressman is not here. And I hear some comments that are going to lead me to say, please be respectful tonight. Please be respectful of each speaker. You may hear something with which you disagree. I would ask you to keep your disagreement somewhat to yourself. If you want to applaud lightly, that's fine, but I'd appreciate if we keep the tone here as positive as possible and as forward-thinking and respectful as possible. Here we go.
Folks, I want to welcome you to Corks and Pines. I'm the license holder here. That's about as much work as I do other than hauling chairs around. And we're kind of in partnership with 10,000 Drops Craft Distillery. They're the big deal. We're just the sidekick. But if you haven't been, 10,000 Drops is normally open Wednesday through Sunday. If you haven't been there, you need to stop in and check it out. The best bourbon in the country. They won a double gold in San Francisco. And they won the Minnesota Corn Growers competition at the Minnesota State Fair for the best bourbon in Minnesota. That was last year. And we just hosted the Rice County Corn Growers Association annual soiree this past week. And those folks that feed us, we should honor them. Anyway, thank you much for coming. And this is very interesting. This is going to be, this is democracy at its best.
Yeah. Thank you, David, for the use of your space and for your comments. And what he said, this is democracy at its best. One of the most important rights that we as citizens have in a democracy is the right to petition our elected leaders, whether they're in the school board, legislators, city councils, Congress, the president. That's part of democracy. And because the congressman is not here tonight, you'll see back in the corner we have a videotape. We are taping this, recording it, both audio and visual, and we will be providing to the congressman's office a videotape of the entire evening, and any written comments. Thank you. Any written comments that come in will also be provided to the congressman's office. So even though the congressman is not able to be here tonight, our message hopefully will get through the staff, and at least some of these selected comments will get to the congressman's attention directly. So about 2 weeks ago, 3 or 4 of us came up with the idea of hosting a town hall and inviting the congressman, which we did. And I want to thank Paula Person, who was probably the prime logistics organizer, and Carolyn Treadway, who was the prime, I'll say, content organizer. And what we've done is we've asked people, some select people, we came up with a list of issues that the 3 of us thought were important for the congressman to hear what the people from the district thought on those issues. And so we solicited a small number of people to prepare comments. So we're going to start tonight. I think we've got about 8 or 9 people. And I'll ask each of those people to speak for about 3 to 5 minutes. Carolyn down here has a time card. She's going to hold up when there's 1 minute left, and when there's 5 minutes left, I'm going to go. And I've never been known to slit anyone's throat for talking too long, but as close as you can get to that. So we looked across the board at issues from education to veterans to farm policy, healthcare, and again, we went out and we sought some speakers. I'm going to start with Cheryl Boysen, or Cheryl, somebody else, a different person I just introduced a while back. Cheryl Freund, who's going to talk about education. Cheryl?
Are all of you here to study Julius Caesar? Shakespeare? Because you'd be a great group. All right, well, anyway, I want to thank Mr. Suss and for the opportunity to speak and to be number one on the program. And I would also like to thank Brad Finstad. Hopefully he will be watching and getting this information so that he can better serve us in the congressional districts. As you know, President Trump is claiming that he is going to get rid of the Department of Education. He wants to dismantle it. Now, we cannot dismantle it legally because it was created by Congress, and so Congress would have to eliminate the Department of Education. But he can starve it, and he can move many of these programs that we depend on right here in Faribault to other agencies. And the likelihood of that happening is pretty good. And if these programs that we depend on here in Faribault are moved to other agencies, it's very likely that they will be subsumed by these other agencies and they will be lost altogether. So demolishing and getting rid of the Department of Education is a very bad idea, and it does affect the communities and the children that we want to educate. And as you know, education, free public education, is the envy of the world here in America. If you've ever been in a third world country, you know that parents would give their right hand to have their children freely educated. Many third world countries do not allow it. So this is something that makes us truly special, truly great. And we have said, traditionally and over the history, that every child deserves a free public education. Not only that, but we have said that if your child has a special need, we're going to go above and beyond, and we're going to give you more resources to help you achieve your goals and the great standards that we have in our state of Minnesota. Now, one of the ways we do that, and it's right here in Faribault, we get special education funding for our students. We have in our school district 51% of our students are economically disadvantaged. And not only through special education do we serve these students who may have special needs, but all through Title I. And Title I gives them extra instruction in reading. And Title I's monies is determined by the poverty level in the school district. So if we lose this funding, it will be $1.1 million that the Faribault Public Schools will lose. Now, in addition to Title I, we have offered through the federal government Title II, which is staff development and training for our teachers and for administrators, so that they have best practices and they can improve the instruction that our students receive. Then we have Title III, which is ESL, that is English as a Second Language. This is an opportunity to provide extra resources to hire teachers who work with children whose first language is not English. And then finally we have Title IV, which will provide for technology and safe schools. So according to our Superintendent Benty, and I want to thank him for his information, the total amount of dollars that we receive from the federal government through the Department of Education is $6.1 million per year. Now, I know that when we make cuts in public schools, oftentimes I think the most that I remember making is about $3 million per year. You have to cut $6 million from your budget. That is very, very discerning for our community. So I would say that the Mr. Congressman Finstad, please remember and get together with your other colleagues around the country who are very concerned about rural communities and realizing the value of the Department of Education. Get together with your colleagues and say no to cutting the Department of Education. Because, and he should remember this is what Thomas Jefferson said about public education. It is the core value of our founding fathers. It's essential to governing. It reduces conflict, increases economic progress, and individual well-being. So say no to temporary decision-making.
After our speakers are done, we're going to have an opportunity for people who have questions they want to ask of the congressman, or in this communications they'd like us to send to the congressman. We're asking you to write them on a sheet of paper that you can get from Paula, and that way we'll have them to send to the congressman's staff or to his office. The next person, well, I'm going to go across this here. I'm going to introduce somebody, but when I introduce them to speak, I'm going to announce who the next person is. So like you're on deck. Sam Temple is the next person to speak, and after that will be Joy Marver.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I know some of you, I recognize many of you I do not recognize, and that is a very exciting thing. My name is Sam Temple, and my day job is in community television. I work for Northfield Public Broadcasting, and I do work on occasion for Faribault Community Television, and we syndicate our programs across many stations across the state. I also serve on the board and the legislative team for an association of people like me working in community media across the state. I say that because the issues that we are facing and the challenges to cuts that we are seeing at the federal level is going to have a ripple effect through the state programs and through the local programs that we have. Now, I know some of you here have served in public positions. So if you have served on a city board or commission, a school board, anything like that, if you could just give me a raise of your hand. I see a couple people, and Dave, I know I can see you, so I will see you if you don't raise your hand. You served on those commissions. Now, suppose you were sick, or suppose you were snowed in on a night like tomorrow where you're not going to be able to get in, but you still want to watch a meeting. How are you going to be able to watch it? You're going to do it through your local television program. This is a civically engaged group of people. Who here has watched a city council meeting, or a school board meeting, or a county commissioner meeting without being there? Almost every hand in the room has gone up. That is possible because of the funding through community television. Now that's not through TPT or PBS, that's through FCTV and NPB. That's how that is possible. And that is only possible through the Cable Act and through franchising laws that we have through the state. And that is laid out in state law, that is laid out in federal law. I have good news. We have bipartisan support in the state legislature from Republicans and Democrats to modernize and continue funding our community stations. And for that, we should thank the bipartisan effort. I'm proud to be part of that. And I am proud that we have support from Democrats, Republicans, and Independents on the importance of community media and free, non-corporate, public, nonprofit media. That is vital to transparency, that is vital to trust, and that is vital to good journalism. Now here's the bad news. The bad news is, cable is a little old, friends. And more people are just going through internet, and they're just going through broadband. Some of the bills that we have in the state legislature will address that funding gap. But at the federal level, we have billions of dollars currently budgeted to get those, to get broadband to every corner of the country, to every corner of Minnesota, because that is a major issue, and it's called an equity issue. It might cost more to get broadband to Medford than it would to get to Minneapolis, but that doesn't mean the people in Medford don't deserve high-speed internet and don't deserve connectivity or transparency in their local government, right? Right. Well, the bad news is right now there is a bill led by Republicans in the federal Congress to pause the program that gives those billions of dollars to have rollout across the country. Why, might you ask? Well, it's because the word equity is in the title of the bill that funded it. That's right. But that's okay, because they have a solution. You want to know what the solution is? Instead of funding the broadband, we'll just give the money to Elon Musk and he can send it to us through these satellites. And I'm hearing from the audience that there's been progress on this today. Yep, they're working on it and they're getting that funding to Elon Musk. Now there is still legislation that can happen, but it's going to be a lot harder now because the floodgates have been opened. There's going to be more opportunities when we oppose things that the FCC is going to do, which wants to dismantle not just PBS, the thing that produces Sesame Street, we want to get rid of that, but they also want to get rid of NPR and NPR and all of those free public nonprofit media stations. So this is an issue not just facing national media corporations and nonprofits, but we are seeing even in the broadband deployment across the country, replacing talented, knowledgeable civil servants with CEOs and Elon Musk. So, with that, Representative, I'm sorry you can't be here tonight, but I promise you will be able to watch this on your local community television station.
Thank you, Sam. I have little bios here of about 6 or 8 words each that I've been neglecting to read, so I need to start reading those. Brian, you're next, after Joy. Joy Marver is a laid-off VA staffer and wants to talk about the impact of staff cuts on veterans' health care.
I apologize, I'm a better speaker when I have my military uniform on. This is different for me. Yes, I'll speak about my service, 20 years in the military. I just recently retired. I joined in 2002, just shortly after 9/11. A lot of us are retiring now and joining civil service. So I'm a probationary employee. I actually work at the VBA, which is the benefit side. Yes, we staffed up pretty high for the PACT Act. I do not work at the hospital. I work for the benefit side. With the PACT Act, veterans are getting more health insurance benefits, which includes more benefits allowed to them, which is good for them. They get more education benefits. They get more benefits for housing. Anything that will help them that gets, I apologize, that helps them. They get more and more benefits to them because they're getting more disability. Now, what I want to really just say is I was terminated by getting a notice by trying to log into my computer. Okay? At 7 a.m., I was not a remote employee. I never worked from home. I'm one of those employees that like to go to the office and have a routine. That's what military kind of do. You want to get up, get out, go to work, and go home. When I could not log into my computer at the VBA, I knew something wasn't right. The first wave of employees left the week before. So I knew that something was going to happen. I get there at 7 a.m. Most of the supervisors don't get there until about 7:30 or 8. So I had to wait around to see what was going on. Now, as I was waiting, my anxiety was pretty high. For the last month, we've been getting psychologically worn down with emails from external sources, I'll say, making us wonder if we're going to have a job tomorrow or not, and demeaning our work. You know, I want to continue helping our veterans. After 20 years and watching my soldiers grow and mentoring them, that was my biggest fulfilling in my life. I just loved it, and I knew that that was my purpose. The VA did not know I got fired. The email was directly emailed to my email, but I could not get to my email. They already locked me out. So that was on the 25th of February. It was a debacle. I had to wait around for about an hour as my division chief had to figure out what was going on. My supervisor did not know I was fired, and the chief of the VBA, the director of the VBA, had no idea that I was terminated. So I was told, collect my badge, clear out my desk, and we had a group hug. And I worked in the supply area, logistics. I also helped get supplies for those veterans that are going to school, because now they got more benefits. I ordered them laptops, those diesel mechanic students. I got them Snap-on tools. I got them the tools they needed to get their trade. So I was there to make sure that they were well equipped to succeed further. It wasn't until March 7th that I actually got the email sent to me at 3 p.m. And it said that I was terminated due to poor performance. I never had poor performance. I've always had exemplary reviews on the civilian side, private sector, in my military career. I've always been promoted up. I have many medals and awards and achievements. I actually got them in the short time I was at the VBA, Employee of the Month. To have that mark on my record will now be permanent. I can't even get unemployment insurance.
What?
So
No.
there is, what happened was jarring, and I did have a mental health crisis. I do have lots of disabilities that are not seen, and they're the invisible wounds due to IED and rockets. Time to go. Okay. Anyways, sorry, I could babble all the time. But please, guys, think about the VBA, the PACT Act. It is not just a hospital. It's about the benefits your veterans are getting. The cemetery is affected, the burial. There's so many benefits not many people know. And it is affecting them. So thank you for listening.
As a veteran, I want to thank you, Joy, for helping my fellow veterans. Brian Rodenbach is here to talk about Social Security, and that will be up after Brian. I know Brian because he and I are both active in Farmers Union, so tonight he's on a little different subject, Social Security.
Thank you, Ted. Good evening, fellow Americans. Congressman Finstad, it's my opinion that the better informed the populace is about Social Security, the more difficult it will be to do damage to the Social Security system. The facts that I'm sharing tonight came from the annual trustees' Social Security annual report. Social Security is identified by 5 letters: OASDI. Old Age Survivors Disability Insurance. It is an insurance program against the loss of income due to death, disability, or old age. If that's an entitlement, so is crop insurance. Social Security is funded by your FICA payroll taxes. Those letters stand for Federal Insurance Compensation Act. Federal Insurance. There we go. Social Security has established a trust fund of $2.6 trillion. When there is a shortfall in benefits payable, they make a withdrawal from the trust fund to make up the difference. The Social Security Administration has no borrowing authority. They cannot borrow any money. The trust funds have to be invested in instrument-bearing or in interest-bearing government instruments backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. The Social Security system has not, does not, and will not contribute one dime to the national debt. Everywhere you go. In fact, the U.S. government, the United States Treasury, owes the Social Security Administration $2.6 trillion. In CD1, there are 14,900 disabled workers receiving Social Security benefits. Many of them are veterans. There are approximately 7,400 children receiving Social Security benefits. Children become beneficiaries of the Social Security system when the breadwinner of the family either dies or becomes disabled. The total number of Social Security beneficiaries in CD1, your district, is 155,648 people. Wow. The amount of Social Security benefits dispersed in CD1 is $280,184,000 per month. The state of Minnesota receives $2.1 billion per month, which is, if you multiply that times 12, that's $25.3 billion per year, which is almost equal to our agricultural production. Mr. Congressman Finstad, you are in a unique position to be able to secure the Social Security Administration for 75 years by helping to pass the Social Security Expansion Act, which will remove the payroll tax cap so that the people that have been prevented from pay their full fair share. In addition, current beneficiary benefits go up $2,400 per year, $200 a month. And the children's survivor benefits will be extended to age 22, provided they're in college or vocational school. So I urge you, everybody get on the bandwagon and pass the Social Security Expansion Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. We asked our speakers tonight to have fact-filled presentations. I think they're all doing a good job. What I neglected to say at the start was that there's an exam at the end tonight. You better be taking notes.
There you go.
Our next speaker is Beth Peterson, who's with an organization. I thought Beth was ahead of Nicole. You guys do Nicole first? Fine with me. The next speaker is Nicole Madison, VP of Strategic Initiatives for Care Providers of Minnesota. She's going to talk on the impact of Medicaid cuts on nursing homes. Thank you, Carolyn, for correcting me. Tell Carolyn with a t-shirt.
Thanks so much for having me. Full disclosure, I'm an outsider. I really, really appreciate being invited in and that so many of you care about Medicaid and seniors. Senior care is an issue I've devoted most of my life to. I've worked in senior care for over 35 years. So it's something that I'm passionate about. And tonight I was asked by one of your community members, Gail Sheridan, to provide some insights and some data about the impact on Medicaid cuts for seniors in long-term care. So Medicaid is more than just a government program. It's a critical safety net that ensures our nation's most vulnerable can access and receive the care that they need and the care that they deserve. Nearly 2/3 of all residents in nursing homes and 1 in 5 in an assisted living depend on Medicaid for their care. So nursing homes are different than assisted livings. They're both similar in that they provide care for seniors in your community. Long-term care services and supports like helping seniors and those with disabilities with basic ADLs like bathing, dressing, walking. Medicaid is the primary payer in all of those circumstances. We're concerned about any cuts to Medicaid, both at the federal or the state level, and any potential impact it could have on access to long-term care services and supports, especially in communities like yours. There are currently proposals included in the governor's budget, for example, that would cap our Medicaid rates, and that could have devastating impacts on access to care and supports in the state. For context, I just wanted to provide some data. I guess this was a data-heavy session. I'm glad for that. Medicaid usage in your community, Rice, Dodge, Steele, and Waseca counties. Medicaid recipients have actually steadily declined over the past 7 years, dropping from 321 in 2018 to 247 individuals in 2024. Most notably is the decrease in residents that are aged 85 or older. You've got 28 assisted living providers and 4 nursing facilities with a total capacity of 1,161 beds. Most providers are concentrated in Faribault and Owatonna, with a few options in smaller communities like Janesville and Medford. But those are the communities that we're really most concerned about. Access to care and support is critical. You don't want to drive 50 miles or to a different community to access supports that you might need close to home. Long-term care is a vital component of the full continuum. So just like you need a hospital, you need a nursing home, you need somewhere for people to rehab and go back to their former living situation. Protecting Medicaid is crucial in maintaining these essential services so that people can get the care that they need when and where they need to access it. We're also one of the only states that has rate equalization. which kind of gets into the weeds, but rate equalization means that we cannot charge our private pay residents more than we can charge Medicaid recipients. Why should you care about that? Because again, access. These operators need to sustain operations so that they can be there when and where you need it. If you need to access long-term care, we can't wait for it to come. It needs to be there, already established and thriving, for you to access it on a 10-day stay, a 14-day stay. And let me tell you, I have my mom living with me so that we don't have to put her in long-term care. I know that seems odd since I'm a long-term care administrator, but you don't know what the impact of an injury or a decline will be, and when you need those services and supports, they need to be in your community. So Medicaid cuts is something that we are very much concerned about. It would be devastating to long-term care providers. These are providers that if they go, they're probably not coming back to your community. And what that does for the full continuum of care could be devastating. So appreciate your time tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.
Zeman is next, and then Lisa Simmons. Kathy is a farmer who, one of my neighbors, a couple miles east of me. I live on one side of the state park. She lives on the other side of it. But Kathy?
I am Kathy Zeman. I have a farm in Wheeling Township in Rice County. The name of my farm is Simple Harvest Farm Organics, because if it ain't simple, we can't do it. I also am a former supervisor of the Rice County Soil and Water Conservation District Board, and I do serve as the executive director of the Minnesota Farmers Market Association, where we have 378 farmers markets and about 10,000 vendors in the state of Minnesota. I'm reporting tonight on the data that we gathered at the direct marketing local food shed level of the ag economy. There's commodity farmers, that's not us. We are the local food shed. So we are the people that grow your eggs and your produce, all of that. And we're going to be we're reporting on that data tonight. We have been negatively impacted by the Trump administration canceling and or pausing these signed legal contracts. These contracts that farmers in District 1 have worked into their business plans for this year, right? Seeds are ordered, fertilizer is ordered, chickens are laying, and we've got cows bred, and sheep are bred, and we got babies coming, and all of these local food products were ready and contracted to be sold into our certain venues. The total value of the contracts, and these are just the ones I could find quickly, really do come up to about $3.2 million just here in our district. Three of the big ones, this is within the resilient food systems infrastructure. Snowpack Foods out of Caledonia has their contract of $1.6 million paused. They are putting up a new cold storage capacity, which will allow all of those organic produce to be cold and stored, and those are all coming from our farmers within our District 1. HAFA, the Hmong American Farmers Association near Hastings, they got a $668,000 grant and 70 cents to put up a new commercial kitchen and food processing and food storage. So then all of that food goes out to the local community. That contract is broken. Featherstone Farm by Rushford, they are modernizing their warehouse, both for their big farm and then all of their neighboring farmers as well. And that's at $250,000. Then there's the program called the LFPA, the Local Food Purchase Assistant Program. The Community Action Center in Northfield got the money. They buy the food from the farmers at the farmers markets, and then that food goes free to the food shelves, to all the people in our community. That was about $140,000. The Red Wing Area Farmers Market lost $96,773. The Red Wing Area Food Shelf is at $140,000. That's down. The Region 9 Development Commission out of Mankato. Again, all of this is when you're buying food from your farmers and it goes to your food shelf. That was $91,718. That's paused. The Southeast Minnesota Food Rescue and Redistribution, $100,000. and the Village Ag Co-op out of Rochester, $100,000. I know one Goodhue County farmer that is now on the hook for $17,853 as reimbursement to put solar on their farm. So these are true dollars, and it's real money, right? That these contracts were signed, they're legal binding contracts that were broken. On March 12th, the USDA said it would no longer honor the agreement to pay more than $17 million over the next 3 years to help Minnesota schools purchase food directly from us farmers. The canceled funds would have reimbursed the schools for that locally purchased food. The contracts represented the largest amount ever invested in Minnesota Farm to School or Farm to Food Shelf. There are hundreds of farmers in Representative Finstad's district that are selling into that program. The loss of the money is really big, right? But more importantly than that, these broken contracts wreck our trust and our ability to rely on our federal government to honor their responsibilities. And remember, I like to remember that all of these dollars we're talking about are our taxes, right? We're just reinvesting in ourselves, and these are broken contracts now. So this yo-yo model we've got right now, your contract is broke, okay, now it's not broke, okay, now it's broke again. It's really hard to plan a business around that, right? So we are looking for Representative Finstad and all of our congressional delegates to show some leadership and help us figure out how to make this resilient again. Thank you very much.
Thank everybody for being, as I asked at the beginning, respectful and not interrupting speakers or anything like that. Those of you who know me can only imagine the torture I'm going through not having comments to every one of them. After Lisa, we have Erica Stalbacher. Lisa Simons, not Simmons, as I said before. She's reading a statement from Kent Freeze, and she'll explain that.
So speaking of farmers, I'm going to start with that. Farmers will be hit hard by the dismantling of USAID. A pause in the release of $2 billion in foreign aid could affect the government's longest-running permanent program for international food assistance, Food for Peace. Food for Peace is now part of USAID, and with USAID's future tied up in litigation, the program's future is in question. And so too is the outlook for American farmers who benefit from the program. In 2020, the federal government bought around $2 billion worth of food aid from American farmers. These commodities were then distributed internationally. That $2 billion represents less than 1% of the income farmers make from their crops. Still, for some industries, the government purchases are crucial. So now a personal statement from my friend, Kent Freeze. My name is Kent Freeze, and I lost my job at USAID after the current Trump administration dismantled the agency. I joined USAID in 2021. Prior to that, I taught in the political science department at Carleton College and was closely involved with the Faribault community, where I attended church and also served as a board member with me, Lisa, with the Faribault Diversity Coalition. In my most recent role at USAID, I worked as the agency's top technical expert to evaluate the effectiveness and impacts of USAID's programs, working to ensure that our programs aligned with foreign policy objectives. My office served as the keepers of the agency's data to help ensure that our programming incorporated the latest research on foreign assistance, was cost-effective, and was achieving intended outcomes. One of the first executive orders signed by President Trump called for a 90-day review of foreign assistance programming, and we made several requests to new political leadership to assist in this review, but those requests were rejected. Instead, that review has happened in an opaque manner, conducted by incoming political officials with no background in foreign assistance activities and in defiance of congressionally mandated foreign assistance spending. Despite over 90% of USAID's programming being congressionally earmarked funds, Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently announced that 83% of USAID's contracts have been canceled. The dismantling of USAID makes the United States weaker, less safe, and less prosperous. Diseases will spread more widely and often back to the U.S. Developing countries around the world will be hesitant to work with us in the future, as we are now seen as a fickle friend. So investment and trade flows will increasingly connect to countries such as China, who are seen as long-term development partners. Programs which purchase grain from U.S. farmers for distribution and life-saving humanitarian assistance are on hold. Private charitable work by U.S.-based faith-based charities such as Catholic Relief Services and World Vision will be less able to reach the neediest around the globe, as USAID often supported the background logistics and government requirements necessary for these charities to operate. And the hit to public perceptions of the U.S., our soft power, may never recover. So for me, the real tragedy is not that myself and all of my colleagues have lost our jobs, but that the richest and most powerful country in the world is choosing to turn its back on the most vulnerable people on the planet. I urge representatives Representative Finstad and the rest of Congress to step in and assert the power of the purse as provided to it in Article 1 of the Constitution, and to stop the dismantling of USAID by an unchecked executive. Thank you.
Would be our next speaker, but I recall that she said she had another meeting that didn't end until 6:30, and she would come right after that. So our next person, with no warning, is Martha Brown. And Martha is a local educator and small business owner. Sorry I didn't give you a chance to get prepared to come up. And then after Martha will be Beth Peterson. When you have an elementary teacher in charge, you follow step 2 comes after step 1 and step 3. You can find it right.
I need to adjust. Thank you, everyone. My friends, my neighbors, my community that I love dearly, Congressman, the gist of this talk is modeled after a speech that Reverend Tracy Blackman gave in Washington, D.C. In Kenya, there is a tribe that goes by the name Maasai, and even in today's time, they retain their traditional greeting. When they greet one another, they say in their own language, "How are the children?" They ask this question because they believe that the viability of people is rooted in how well the children are doing. As an educator and a Faribault resident who cares deeply about this community and our young people, all of them, I share this sentiment with the Maasai people. So I ask you today, Congressman, how are the children? And before I let you know, in case you don't know, I do want to acknowledge that we had an elected official, a school board member here, who got up and left during Cheryl's initial talk about dismantling the Department of Education. And that is already on Facebook. Thank you very much. And I do want to thank Candace Knudsen, who is
is also on the Faribault School Board, and any other educator and former educator and former school board member. So let's go back to that. How are the children, when over 16 million children in America live in poverty? How are our children, when 15% of children in Rice County are living below the poverty line, and many, many more are living just above the poverty line where they can't access services and help? How are our children, when the president's policies and Congress's budget and tax structure are all meant to benefit the wealthy 1% and not those of us who are working hard, those of us who are struggling, those of us who are hurting? How are our children? How are our children when in Rice County we have some families that are homeless, and we have children in our schools that are living in cars? How are the children when 6.5% of Rice County residents under the age of 65 have no health insurance, and then Congress is proposing to cut access to affordable health insurance, which, speaking personally, is not all that affordable already? How are the children? How are the children when 911 calls for domestic violence have risen 31% in the past 3 years, and when clients receiving services from the Hope Center has risen 37% in 3 years, and yet the federal DOJ funding for programs for victims of domestic violence is being slashed as Trump makes the DOJ a weapon to pursue his enemies? This is here. How are our children when they come to school emotionally dysregulated with unsuccessful coping strategies, i.e. the cell phone? Relying on cell phones instead of each other and the adults in the community. How are the children? How are the children when the president and Congress is cutting money for social services, food stamps, poverty relief programs, and free breakfast and lunch in the school? That's Title I, as Cheryl said. All federal funds that are keeping more than half of families in Rice County housed and fed. And how are the grandparents whose Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid programs that we pay taxes for are being slashed? How are the grandparents who are raising the children? Let's look at how the children could be if the president and Congress would act in the interests of our nation, our state, our county, and our town. What might it look like if our government leaders and our policymakers took a vow not only to uphold the Constitution, and mean it, but also a vow to stop hindering the health and well-being and pursuit of excellence of our children? How would our children be then? What would it be like if all of you in Congress, the Supreme Court, and the House asked each other every day, how are the children? And worked to improve the lives of our children? How are you, Congressman Finstad, knowing the state of children in your county and in your district that you represent, how and why are you allowing cuts to these vital programs to happen? Allowing people to lose their livelihood and their abilities to feed the children. How are you allowing the cuts to farmers who grow food to feed the children? Allowing our park rangers not only to lose their jobs, but their homes. What about their children? How can you, Congressman Finstad, support policies that will only make the lives of children and families in your district and the entire country worse? More poor, more sick, more uneducated, and more hopeless. When will you, Congressman Finstad, stand up against the insane policies and executive orders that are traumatizing and hurting your constituents, especially the children who are anxious and they're stressed because they don't know if they have a future or what it will be like? Is it okay with you, Congressman, that the children in your district are going hungry in a rural area that grows enough food to feed the world? Congressman Finstad, our children are not well. That's how they are. Our families and our communities are not well. We need you to do your job. We need you to care about the people that you represent and do the job that we elected you to do. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job.
Thank you, Martha. I almost had it. Is with an organization called Vote, Run, Lead, Action. Is that correct? A little different spin on things than might be here.
Wow, that was hard to follow. I also am not from the community, but I am from rural Minnesota. I'm from the Iron Range, so I am here to, thank you. I'm here to ask you all to run for office. That's what I'm here to do. So, Vote Run Lead Action, we are a nonpartisan, values-based organization that helps. What was that? Louder. Sorry. That we, Vote Run Lead Action, we are a values-based, nonpartisan organization that helps people run for office and win. Winning is the important part. But all of the things that have been mentioned before me tonight can be solved, well, we hope, can be solved by running for office. So the schools, run for school board. The social service network, that can be county commission. I appreciate the speaker who talked about being on the local soil and water and things like that. So it was great too to see so many people who have already run or who are on boards right now. So if you could take a look at Vote Run Lead, VRLHQ.org, that's a free repository of all of our knowledge, our skills, the information and inspiring videos to help you run for office. We want you out there making your voices heard, not only through the action tonight, at tonight's town hall and through the calling and all of the actions that you've been taking, but running for office and taking that next step too. And so I am here and I have my business card down there, and I hope that all of you run for office to take this to the next level.
Thank you, Beth. I want to echo that. There's not a person in this room that doesn't have the capabilities to serve in public elected office. And it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how young you are. So take what she said seriously. We need every race, whether it's for township office, school board, state legislature, anything. We need every one of those races to have 2 or 3 people running so that the issues get talked about and people have a choice. But really appreciate that coming down. Before I introduce the next person, we did incur a few expenses tonight, and one of the ways we are trying to offset that is there are a bunch of Post-it notes on this table. And if you'd like to take a Post-it note, we'd like to ask you to contribute $1. You don't have to, it'd be nice if you would. If there's a message you'd like to have us pass on to Congressman Finstad or to his office, write your note on the Post-it note and just put it on the board down there, and that will go to his office. So you can, I don't expect everybody to jump up right now and come over, but before you leave tonight, grab a Post-it note, throw $1 in the jar, and send your direct personal note. The next person I want to introduce is Joe Shepard. Joe is a citizen of the 1st District, and he's going to talk to us about the continuing resolution that was just passed by Congress this last week.
Perfect. So my name is Joe Shepard. Hi, Congressman. I am honored to be a resident of the 1st Congressional District. I have worked for the last few years in state and federal government, so it's my job to figure out what's going on in Washington and St. Paul. And I love it down here in southern Minnesota. You know, I choose to make the daily commute from Rochester to St. Paul because I would rather live down here. We have a great way of life, and I hope to help contribute to it one day myself. So I just want to say that. Now, over this last week, we had a continuing resolution that passed to keep the government open. And of my 3 congressional representatives, you are the only one who had voted for it. And of course, keeping the government open is critically important. But I have quite a few questions. And as one of your 700,000 constituents, I feel like I'm obligated an answer. I wish you were here tonight to actually see this. So, the first thing I want to ask, apologies I did a laundry list, is I don't think we are going to agree on politics. I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. However, I hope that our Catholic faith can really bind us. My faith teaches me that we feed the hungry, we help the sick, we help the aged, and we house the homeless. And what you passed last week does none of those. So let's start with feeding the hungry. We've heard about these USAID cuts. We have a bounty when it comes to Minnesota agriculture. Our farmers feed the world. Why, oh why, do we not allow our government to give a little bit of that bounty to other countries and other communities who need our help? We're so lucky. And in addition to that, we have something called the Emergency Food Fund. Essentially, it helps hungry Americans right here in this country get a bite to eat when they can't make ends meet. And you know what? According to a nonpartisan study, 25,000 seniors across this country are going to lose their lunch and dinner because of cuts you made. Why did you do that? We have a lot of people here who you represent who have a lot of questions. Next, we've talked about Social Security. How many people in this room, raise your hands please, if you're on Social Security or Medicare? A lot of constituents, see? A lot of your constituents who you are accountable to rely on these services. And just this morning, one of your colleagues, a congressman from Texas, said, maybe the Republican Party doesn't need to be the party of saving Medicaid. What is this bullshit? Pardon my language. We are supposed to help people, lift them up, not tear them down. The next thing I want to bring up, and I think this is critical, is when airplanes are falling out of the sky like clouds with balls. Why, Congressman, did you choose to make $40 million in cuts to the FAA protecting those people who fly? And I only got a couple more things, so thank you for bearing with me. I'm a nerd, so I love kind of going over conditions, so thank you for bearing with me. The next thing I'll ask is, we pride ourselves on having our rural communities down here. We have a way of life that's special, and we want to pass it on to the next generation. So why did you choose to take $30 million out of the rural broadband budget? Why? And the last thing I'll say, because I know President Trump loves talking about election security, why did you choose to remove $40 million from the election security budget of the Department of Justice? I don't get it. Now, I'll leave you guys with some action items because there's nothing helpful about just airing grievances, although I will admit it feels good. So, the last thing I'll say is March 18th, today, on this day in 1766, we the people overturned the Stamp Act because we the people understood that taxation without representation doesn't work. And clearly, we are not being represented now. Billionaires are running absolutely wild in this day and age. We've got President Musk and his little buddy Donald. And the last thing I want to ask is, in this country, you as my congressman and our senators are accountable to we the people. Why did you choose to deregulate the Security Exchange Commission, which regulates billionaires and tax cheats like Elon Musk? When we have unelected leaders trying to loot the government, why are you giving them the keys to the chest? Why are you giving them that? So, I'm really sorry you couldn't be here, Congressman, because we have a lot of questions. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing from us real soon. Now, what can you do? Because you've heard a lot of moaning from me. First of all, call Congressman Finstad's office.
He doesn't respond.
Well, there's a way to make him hear it.
Just like they don't show up.
You know, I've worked for the federal government, I've worked for state government, and even if he won't respond, I can tell you there are 3 things you can do. First, email him every day. Clog up those emails because then they'll have to notice you. Second, if you have an extra stamp, write them a letter, because I can tell you the most annoying thing I did when I lived in Washington was cleaning out a mailbox of a bunch of angry constituents. And lastly, this is the most important one, because you are all people here. We're not check marks, we're not numbers, we are all individual people. And if you call his office and you tell them whatever you think is important, make sure the intern or the legislative assistant who calls and takes your call reads back that entire message to you. Make them.
Yes.
Because if you don't, you're just another check mark to them. So thank you very much for having me. And remember, who are you accountable to? We the people!
I didn't write it all. So Representative Finstad, and I'm concerned about our farmers. We are definitely in a farmer county here. And in 2018, when Mr. Trump was president, he put tariffs on China. And our soybean business went to Argentina and Brazil. Now we're getting new tariffs on China and other tariffs. And I'm concerned about, and there are other cuts to our farmers. I'm concerned about their income. They don't have much to spare right now, and they probably won't in the future. So my question is, because our president also last week stated that our farmers should focus on the domestic market. We have plenty of food here, but the domestic market is full. So where are farmers to go to sell their produce? You cut USAID. You're helping other people. So what is your idea, and what proposals have you made to help our farmers' income? Thank you.
Sherry Eichhorn? Is Sherry Eichhorn?
Right.
She's right there.
I just have a question, Mr. Finstad, about why. You know, we've been told over and over and over again that these DOGE cuts are for efficiency. That's what we've been told. What I want is, if that's the case, then start telling us all about the efficiencies that have been created. Right. Yep. Seems to me that what we're experiencing is deficiencies. And I'm asking, tell us, because there's so many people in need who are having cuts to the things that help them live their lives. And I guess I don't believe it. I just want you, if you want us to believe this, tell us what you're providing. Tell us. And then listen when we have questions so that you can then clarify. So that's what I do.
I'm Diane Larson, and I've been a teacher and a principal working in a ton of schools, and I actually started in 1962. I have seen it all. before we had Department of Education, we had lots of things to do and no help really for the students. We didn't have all the special ed, we didn't have, in-service, many things, class size. So my question to you is, how many of you, whether it's private school, public school, students in college, how many of you actually have someone in one of those schools? Let's see hands. When you look around, people are still affected, so the question you need to wonder, what is going to happen to the education of your children, your grandchildren, future students? When you look at the Department of Ed being closed down, the special ed money, busing, that will affect private schools, lunches, on and on and on. Class size, English second language. I still sub in the Faribault schools, and I have been there and I have seen at least 65% of the students are minority of color, 35 are Caucasian. Those kids, what are the chances will they have with English second language help, or even with the diversity issues, the racism issues, the DEI? And if those words aren't anything, it's being cut, it's away. So those students, how are they going to cope? Like I said, I've seen it all, many different stages. When I was in school, I signed my first contract 63 years ago, and I'm older than dirt, but I'm still involved. And we have to stay involved and speak up. No matter our age, I'll probably do it till they have to carry me out. I don't know. But the question is, what can we do? How can we help? What's going to help? What's going to happen to our students and to education and public education? Now, the big question for Finstad, if you cut the Department of Ed, where's that money going to go? Yeah. In what agency? Is it going to go in somebody's billionaire's back pocket? Yep. So many questions.
Hello everyone, my name is Erica Sababsher and I'm the director of Hope Center, and we serve domestic violence and sexual assault. I've been doing this work for over 26 years, and I can tell you I've probably lost more sleep in the past 3 weeks than I have in my entire career. So there's incredible uncertainty at both the state and federal levels, and for those programs like ours, they are inextricably linked. You cannot have federal cuts without state cuts and vice versa. And so I have sister programs across the nation. I've worked in this field for long enough that I have friends across the nation. There's lots of programs that are on the verge of shutting down within the next few months if nothing happens. There's a lot of programs across the state of Minnesota that will shut down or will have to reduce funds, which means that there will be entire swaths of Minnesota with no victim advocacy. So some of my sister programs have 5 to 6 counties that they're serving, and only 1 or 2 victim advocates within those counties, and those will go away. We were already, as a state, looking at at the federal level, looking at a 42% cut in our programmatic spending. So we were looking at the VOCA funds, which are Victims of Crime Act, which are taxpayer dollars that are intended to serve the victims of the nation. And we were looking specifically to Minnesota at a 42% reduction, and that's before any of this even started. For Hope Center specifically, about 50 to 60% of our funding is from federal and state funds. About 18% are from the VOCA funds, and then the 50 to 60% are from the state funds. This instability and uncertainty at the federal level is terrifying victims. They don't know what to do. They're turning to us, asking lots and lots of questions that we have no answers to. Our grant managers don't have any answers to any of the questions that we have. We know that this will greatly impact programs. Domestic violence won't go away. Sexual assault will not go away. If we go away, it will not go away. And we know that this is a public safety issue. We know that this will just continue to rise if we are not here to help intercede. We know that there's not going to be anybody that's going to run our multidisciplinary meetings with law enforcement, prosecution, and all the other agencies that we collaborate so closely with. My question for the representative is, what is he going to do to protect domestic violence and sexual assault victims? And that's what I want to know.
Great to see all of you here. This is democracy at its finest.
Thank you for your service.
It's my privilege to have served. I'm an educator. I'm retiring this spring after 33 years in education. The cuts that I see coming in our future devastate me for our young people. Our economy in southern Minnesota, and CD1, is so complexly intertwined with agriculture, healthcare, education, industry. How can we, as a district, survive the cuts that we are going to be seeing that are coming down from Washington? We need you to answer to those questions, Representative. Why do you not support our basic needs here in this district, and our state, and our country? Your silence is a telling tale. We need a voice to represent us in Washington, in our state here, to be leading us forward, not in reverse. I'm going to do this the right way here. I don't know how to do this. Oh, I left it back there. I spent 30 years in the Army National Guard. The last 5 as a Red Bull in the 34th Infantry Division. I did. Amen. My last year I spent in Iraq. Not the way I wanted to end my career, but it was a culminating event. How many veterans are here today? Please raise your hand. Now, if you have keep your hand up. If you have a spouse or significant other here, raise your hand also. Because not only did the veterans serve, but my wife served for 18 years alongside me. When we don't take care of our veterans, that solemn oath that we took to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I have not released that oath yet. And I've been retired for 15 years. I will never release that oath. So Congressman, do the right thing. Support our district. Support our veterans. Because we are mad as hell that things aren't getting done for the people of CD1. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
Army service is going to disappear.
What's that?
I served 26 years in the United States Army, and my history is being erased by the day. Yes. The Navajo code walkers are gone. I want to know why I don't count with my history.
And I apologize, I believe it's G-U-E-T, and then I'm not quite sure.
But it's me. But you can just give that to Finstad.
Should we just pass this on to, well, what is your last name, Karen?
Ginter.
Ginter? Thank you. I was going to take the N out. And then, Deb, did you, Deb Hoganson?
Because
good one to end with, huh?
I don't know, I didn't have a chance to read it.
All right.
Mr. Finstad, we were told you were unable to meet with us tonight, but you haven't spoken to any open, in-person town hall this year. So, huh?
How many have there been? Oh, he's only had phone ones and other things.
He can call them, that's the idea, he calls them, so he can represent it.
Go, let's keep going. So my question, Mr. Finstad, is when will you gather the courage that Tim Walz demonstrated in 2010 after he voted for the Affordable Care Act? Some people were angry then. He didn't run and hide. He faced his voters and explained what he needed to explain. If he could do it, so can you.
Thank you, Dave. That's the end of the written questions. If there's anyone who wants to make a comment, I'm going to ask you to limit it to 1 minute, or ask a question to the congressman through the videotape. We'll pass the microphone right here, and then you, and then you. So, in the interest of letting this fabulous crowd go home for the evening, I'm going to ask you to limit your comment or question to 1 minute.
Mr. Congressman, why are they monkeying with all of these committee or departments that aren't getting paid by the federal government, such as the United States Postal Service, the African, I can't think of the rest of the names, and there's another one they just went into. Yeah, Feed the Children. Why are they doing that? They don't get taxpayer dollars. The post office gets no money from the federal government at all. It's all through their state sell of stamps, the priority, the services they provide. You are not paying the Postal Service to bring your mail every day, and they deliver to everybody in the country. So just remember that for one. I don't know about the other two, but I do know about that one for sure, because I was retired from the Postal Service. Thank you. I have to tell them who I am. Peggy Thompson.
Thank you, Peggy. Ma'am? Thank you, Peggy. Ma'am? And again, I'll ask you to limit to 1 minute. Start out by giving your name. At 1 minute, I'm going to shut the mic off.
Well, we didn't quite do that with everybody, did we?
1 minute.
So, to the lady over there in the striped shirt, if you put on Facebook that Linda Moore left this meeting.
Which she did.
She did, but so did another school board member.
You want to name her?
Pardon me?
Do you want to name her?
Well, you should know.
Look at
You have
Okay. 2 years ago, we were warned that the Democrats were doing was unsustainable, okay? And you cannot increase government spending by 40% overnight, raise taxes by $10 billion, and drain the entire $18 million worth of surplus, and now we're going to face a deficit. Where were you guys when this was all happening? Secondly, to Cheryl Freund and Candace Knutson, do you know how much money comes from the federal government for education? Of course, it is not. My point is that you have not listened to what Trump has said. He said he was going to give the money from the education department, federal education department, to the states.
It's going to right now and
Dallas Musselman, I told you exactly this is what would happen.
It's gonna raise state taxes. You have 1 minute. Do you wanna come? 1 minute.
My name is Steve Joy, and one of the things that bothers me about what's going on in Washington, especially with one party, is the lying. For example, Social Security. Is there anybody in here that used to program in COBOL? I did. It's too bad. When it comes to the Social Security, there was a programming glitch. Well, it wasn't a glitch, it was actually a zero.
Move it like this. There.
Like you're trying to wake up.
30 seconds.
Okay. So what happened is when they ran the 6 million people and whom they have saved billions of dollars over, the program ran, it hit a zero, and it went because it couldn't identify the person. 4 years ago, they had programmers come in to find out all about these 6 million people. They found 2 that had screwed the government. So the lying continues, and they still dwell on this 6 million people that they have found and saved all these billions of dollars, which is a shame.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Dan Shady. I've been around for a long time, and my wife, she said, don't get into any trouble because I'm not going to get you out of jail. So I'm going to keep it brief. I went to a town hall meeting, and we were outnumbered some years ago when Trump was in, and it was terrible. He was the best president ever. And there's only about 4 independents or Democrats there, and we were kind of booed right out of the place. So I'm glad people are finally saying something, because I've written many letters to the editor of the paper, whoever gets the paper and stuff, that we can't handle another Trump presidency, and that's happening right now, and the democracy is about shot. I was in the service back in Vietnam. I went to Vietnam, and that was a sickening war and everything, but I did my job, I came home, and now this is going to hell.
Gentlemen here. No problem, no problem. Hello, everyone. I am Brian Thomas. I am a proud vet and a VA employee. So, thank you. My question is, where are you? We voted for you to be accessible. Say it with me. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? We are tired of these weak excuses that you can't come. Show up. We voted for you to show up. Come see us. Thank you.
Your name and then where are you? It was good. My name is Dean Nelson. The only thing we haven't said tonight is how come you, Brad Finstad, and all the Republicans are quiet when Trump is supporting Russia?
My name is Greg Jewison. I farmed for 40 years. My question to you, Mr. Finstad, is if you truly
understood what tariffs are, why would you be supporting them when tariffs hurt the American people? And when Trump got the trade board, put the tariffs on, he got the trade war going. And here's my question. If farmers sell corn for $4 a bushel to the other countries, and they place tariffs on, guess what? It's going to cost that country $5 a bushel. So those countries are not going to keep buying from the United States when they can buy for $4 a bushel. How dumb do you think the American farmers are, Mr. Finstad?
Hi, I'll make this as fast. Bev Cashman, I'm the former chair of the Steele County DFL, and I ran for office in 2014 and 2016. Yeah, that's it. I just would like to make a quick response because a lot of junk has been thrown at the Democrats for the 2023 session, where they worked so many things that we had been waiting so long for. And if you'll recall, I would just like to drop this bit of remembrance that what did the Republicans want to do with that? They wanted to give it back. Do you remember that chant? Give it back, give it back. And when our governor, Tim Walz, wanted to send checks to people, they said no because they didn't want Walz checks. All right, so there was no better idea coming from the other side. The money was spent on things that needed to be funded.
Thank you.